Our MMO sucks. Now, I'm gonna be honest here, those are 3 words you would never expect any developer or publisher to openly admit. Because if the team that is actively responsible for this game are of the opinion that their MMO is horrible, why would anyone be expected to think otherwise and therefore play it? Before we go any further, I just want to take a moment here to thank all of the absolute chads and chadettes that support this channel via Patreon. You're all freaking legends. Seriously, each and every single one of you. I would offer to give each of you a kiss, but I suffer from severe intimacy issues. Additionally, if you want to stay up to date with all the latest MMO gacha and gaming news, take a second here to follow MRSSTIX and I over on Twitter. We tweet daily. It's no secret that Last Oasis is not the gargantuan success that many other survival titles in this genre are, yet that by no means this game is not a success in its own right. On the contrary, a 33,000 player peak that is averaging over 4,000 players concurrently, that isn't anything to laugh at. Those numbers, however, are likely not remotely close to being enough to fully sustain the game in the long term. With this in mind, Chads, the individual that designed Last Oasis, actually made a post over on the official Steam community titled Last Oasis Sucks. This is objective, this is right to the point, I like it, and I should know. I designed it, and more than that, I played it extensively. Now, with this in mind, it is worth noting, however, that just because you have played something extensively does not mean that you are in a position to necessarily understand what the larger community wants to see, which is admittedly an issue that many developers suffer from. When I say it sucks, I mean I'm not having fun for long when playing it. Not as long as other survival games that I enjoy, and I'm not alone with that opinion. We could argue back and forth why Last Oasis is objectively not fun and what needs to be changed to make it a great experience. We did actually for 4 seasons to be precise, and while each season got rid of tons of problems, there was always that one fundamental issue remaining. I personally am not having fun when playing Last Oasis for long. After season 4, it finally hit me. I've been on a wild goose chase. I've been trying to chase down the reason why players don't have fun in Last Oasis. This is a fruitless exercise until I can understand why I am not having fun. Suddenly, the question was no longer, what can I do to fix Last Oasis? The question became, if I were to make Last Oasis from scratch, what would I do? And the answer to that question is Season 5, L Overhaul. First, the slightly egotistic good news. I'm having a blast playing it. In fact, I never ever had so much fun in Last Oasis by myself. It's challenging, it's surprising, it's rewarding, and I want to keep playing. Now, I'm gonna stop right there because that is probably a sentence comprised of more buzzwords than I have seen in recent memory. And if there is one thing I have learned in my extensive history playing MMOs, it is that an update, no matter how large, is going to provide a substantial enough change to the core game to be able to make that kind of claim. Which isn't to say this game or this update for the game isn't a lot of fun, just that based off of what was said, it kind of feels a little bit like he's hyping up the next large update for the game. Not that I can really fault him for doing that, it just comes off a little bit disingenuous. Now for the slightly bad news, a lot of you will not like it. And you know what? That is the gaming genre in a nutshell. You're never going to please everyone. There will always be a divide in the community. Those that support you, those that appreciate what you're doing, and those that don't. The most common feedback was nearly verbatim, I love it the way it is, but this is way too difficult for the average players. For the next few days, we shall put that theory to the test. L Overhaul has a strong focus on PvE, and the PvE is brutal. The world is in every way trying to actively kill you. The sun will make you constantly struggle for survival, so the general state of the world that we're in pretty much right now. Water is precious, massive deadly sandstorms can catch you off guard, aggressive Rupu are roaming the lands, not only attacking you, but also your structures and your walker, should you even get that far. And if you think that those are hard to deal with, wait until you encounter the ones in camps or those that are manning siege equipment. Now, I am glad that he took a moment to address though how players generally perceive change, because as I noted Players are always going to be divided. Players petition for change, and then when change happens, they immediately argue that that is not the change that they wanted, regardless of what you offer or provide them. It sounds about right. The difficulty in Last Oasis used to be non-existent until you encountered another player who could destroy everything you owned in under 3 minutes. Now players will have to make a conscious decision to join PvP when they are ready for it, and the PvE teaches you through trial and error how to stay safe. See, that is both the larger issue with PvP focused survival games, but also at the same time, the appeal of them, right? Building up your character to absolutely decimate every other player you come across. That's how you play PvP survival games. But at the same time, full loot PvP games also only really appeal to a very, very niche part of the gaming community. This is made abundantly more evident within the MMO scene by the sheer lack of any kind of successful full loot PvP MMO in 2022, or rather in the last decade, and nobody cares to develop one. You'll find tools to help you survive this harsh environment, but often you'll have to make do with situational circumstances. Your tube spade will help you build a small base to keep you safe, but the moment you're stepping outside, all bets are off. For some players, this is great. You'll have to carve out victory after victory, and each defeat will be a lesson in what you can do better. Every time you manage to come back to your base with some precious loot, you feel glorious. Every time your greed gets the better of you and you bite off more than you can chew, the lesson will be painful but deserved. The game has a lot to explore, and many options become available as you learn the mechanics better. For others, the experience will be awful. The game no longer holds your hand at all. No protected slots, no tutorial, no linear missions that gently guide you through progression. Just you in a sandbox full of tools and deadly dangers. And if you don't think ahead, the world will absolutely punish you. And honestly, while I am all for being just thrown out into a new world without any kind of tutorials or assistance, at the same time, I feel like players that have already played this game, players with an understanding of the game, are going to be provided with a significant advantage over those of us that have not. New players aren't going to have anything or anyone really to guide them, with seasoned players having the complete opposite experience. I don't want to sugarcoat that. L Overhaul is not a game for everyone, and that's okay. However, it's important to establish a good baseline for those who like the general direction. There's fun difficulty, there's challenging difficulty, and there's ridiculous rage quit difficulty. And I feel like we have all been there before. I absolutely need your help to establish a good middle ground, which finally brings us to the L Overhaul beta. A small beta test to establish a good baseline for the difficulty, which in my opinion is a good way to handle things. Because as I noted earlier, just because you have played something extensively does not really mean that you're in a position to understand what the larger community wants to see. This is going to provide players more control over shaping the future of the game. And I am fully on board with this decision. Change is hard to accept, I'll admit. And openly admitting that your game sucks is something that not every player is going to want to see. But at the same time, being honest, being blunt, and transparent is important. Yeah, I feel like you're sensationalizing this a little bit, but honestly, at the same time, I get it. And I hope to eventually one day test this out once it's ready. I've never tried Last Oasis out, but a survival MMO sounds like a lot of fun, and I feel like after this update goes live, this is going to be a fantastic place to start.